available. They play to the element of one, accessibility. And these are the three key elements that changes markets today. One, accessibility. Two, they also play to the elements of what? Oh, so let me call this availability. Affordability, because it was cheaper. So it was affordable, it was also what? Available. Now you are the guy inside the vehicle, you are in traffic jam, it's hot, you want to take what is it called now? What's that thing they take with that goes gala? You want to take gala, but you are a Pepsi person. Where's Pepsi finished? Oh, I'm not buying. Okay, we get people are not they buy. You are still in the traffic with it. Another seller comes. When Pepsi is not there, a time will come when the desirable is not available. They are available because by the time you start looking all around, all you are seeing is big cola. You won't have a choice than to buy big cola. And that's how, what they do? They want the market. The third element is collaboration. So basically, they collaborated with the guys that were on the streets, on the foot, on the shop floor marketers. And that's how in 6 months they were able to break it and they were pulling up to 50% of the market share with an initial capital that is less than the budget. Advertisement budget. So there must be that alignment. So what has happened is this: their strategy was quick access. Do you understand? But their culture has to be aligned. And what was the culture that needs to be aligned with quick access of strategy was to go and create kiosks at the location where the market happens, the exchange happens. Pepsi was also working with this strategy, but the culture was not supporting it because they had more bigger depots at different locations that were far away. So for you to be able to win, though this is important, but your strategy and your culture must align with your visual identity. Now, it could be the reverse. We just introduced. In my organization, before I drove the brand refresh, what had happened is we have a strategy that has evolved. The organization has been in operation for about 35 years. Established for about 35 years, operation for that. So we had a strategy that was important, that has evolved, matured. Our culture has also evolved and matured. But one thing that has remained the same was our visual identity. So even when the organization has grown and assumed a global persona, the visual identity was a local persona. So even though your value was reaching to the ends of the world, the people who were even enjoying your value didn't recognize you because your visual identity, which is the first point of recognition, was not contemporary. So these 3 key elements, and that's why if you understand this, it will help you to begin to look at your business from the scratch. So what's your strategy? How does my strategy align with my culture? How does my culture align with what? My visual identity. When the likes of GTB started, they wanted to be, they called them, those days they called them the new age bank, but they are one of the very descriptive element they were known for was your transparency. So back in the days, if you walk into our traditional banks, the bigger banks, First Bank and the like, Unity Bank of those days, Eco Bank and the Union Bank. If you walk on those banks, what you have as the cashier's, what is it called now? Desk is a block of wall, cement, well slabbed. You can rest on it. That's how they attend to you. When the likes of GTB Bank came, what they did was to put glass. So if you've walked in the bank before, behind those slabs were the stash of money that they were issuing out. So you can imagine those of us who were used to that same culture walking into a bank and all of a sudden you can see money everywhere. So the first thing that it does to your consciousness is, at that time we're also struggling with things of cash availability moving. It just became a thing of, oh, there is money. Then secondly, I can see my money. Because there were people who were keeping money in banks at the time because they felt it wasn't safe. So they go, okay, I can see that means people are not running away with my money. Then also, he also helped them in implementing what they call the open door policy. Back in the days, offices were walled like this. But then that's when we started having what we call open door policies, where the office is just glass. So you see the guy behind the wall. So they're having a conversation, everybody see what's happening. It just brought in a new perspective. And of course, people embraced it. Now, did they come with some concerns? If they come with some concerns, what was the concern? The concern at the time was, oh, if people are seeing the money, like we did not need to, raise the interest of armed robbers and stealing and all of those things. But then they came with a revolving door with scanners. So the fact that with a single metal, the alarm goes up, gave some sense of security, perception. Even with that, robbers were still robbing banks. But it gave with an unconscious perception of security, and people became much more attuned to it. And of course, the biggest thing they did was to, all of the old banks were, those days when you go to bank, the cashier you see are people in their 50s and 60s. But they start having 25, 30 years, young guys on. So the young people started learning the culture of banking because it became more relatable. So I can walk into a bank and have a chat with a fellow young guy like when I have to walk into a bank and I'm talking to my dad's age mate. You understand what I'm trying to say? And that sort of affects, so there is no connection between, there's no mutual conversation. The guy is 50 and 20, there's nothing to discuss. At most, he knows my dad, he's going to ask me high school, and maybe you even get scolded for the last result that you got in school. But when I walk into a bank so if I have a slab and there are 5 old people and 1 young, I probably will go to the young person because there's this feeling of my kind. And that's how they changed the narrative. And of course, that worked for them because we were also having a growing young population at the time. So it's about understanding what happens within your industry, aligning your strategy, your culture, and your visual identity, and ensuring that you use all of these elements to differentiate yourself from others, so much that you are within the industry but you are ahead of the industry. And all of this has to be reflected in everything that you do. The second element of, I just talked about one, the second element under consistency, the second element of consistency is also the flow of experience. The flow of experience. So take for instance, I'm into, what do you said you are into, what's it called now? Head drinks?
Yeah, yogurt yes.
Yeah. Not calling you go to it's
not calling you. You saw the reframing I was talking about yesterday.
I do with all these lives that are streets.
Yes.
So I probably got a referral about your business, then I call you. Then I hear this very warm, welcoming voice. Oh, welcome to so. What can we do for you today? I'll have a lengthy conversation. What do you guys do? What do you guys have? And I say, okay. Then you end up by saying, oh, you can actually place order on our website. Then I go to your website. Then the website, I'm now wondering, what was the voice I heard and which website am I looking at? Am I on Niger Bed's website or?
It doesn't go. The relationship is not there.
You understand what I'm trying to say? There's similar misalignment. The tendency that I will end up not buying is very high. But if I hear that voice and I go to the website and I see the faces behind the products, then I see the UI, UX, whatever, very relatable, I can click on it, things are flowing, I get more enticed. Then maybe I decide to even do a walking into your shop and say, okay, I want to come pick it up. And right from the gate man, there is somebody smiling and welcoming me. You see that flow of consistency of experience, that's what brings people back. But if, for instance, which is what I do most times, when I travel to a country that I have not been to, a part of a country I have not been to, and I'm looking for an African restaurant, the first thing I do is to go to the African restaurant close to me. Then of course it pulls it up and I see one and I click on it and take a look at the experience. 99.9% because I've not met them and I don't have an understanding of what happens, my decision is based on what I see. So you see why your digital footprint has to be such that it's very attractive. But it doesn't end there. Because the moment I see, I copy the address, I put it on Google, I'm booking my way down there. Then I get there, I get the same experience. Oh, welcome, how did you get to know which country are you from? You're African. Oh, which part of Nigeria? I'm Somalian. You know, we start having a conversation. I'm sold in. But if I get there, and what I see, let you say South Africa today is go back, man. What to think of our country? Then I have a problem. Because, again, I don't see the correlation, the consistency. So, you need to take notice of that. The consistency across your corporate identity and consistency across your experience flow. Pretty much important.
The culture part of the tree, or can you give a video of that?
I see this culture. I was hoping that nobody would ask. This one is a symposium topic on its own. And the reason is because, not until I started studying culture, I didn't know how invasive and how important it would be. As a matter of fact, culture is everything. There is no organization that is able to rise and move its culture. Culture is the lead. Forget about visual identity, forget about strategy. Culture is the most important. And that's why somebody said culture is strategy for breakfast. It's a drucker. And the way I like to put it is, if culture eats strategy for breakfast, then leaders should eat culture, so that they can be ready. But culture is really the most important. But what essentially do we mean when we say culture? What does culture mean? Culture means how we do things here. How do we do things here? How do we do things here? The way we do things here, that's what your culture is. Have you noticed that, maybe I should remember, I will just say, have you noticed that our hospitality industry, especially when it comes to hospitals specifically now, in this country, our public institutions, public hospitals, the culture is horrible. Have you seen nurses talking to a pregnant woman that is in labor? Like, the woman is in pain. Have you seen? You also somebody who ask who they shout for there? Okay, now first speaking, when I leave my good day, okay. These are people who are supposed to provide health care.
Yeah.
Have you been exposed to health care around this country? Have you gone to the hospitals? You feel like falling sick. No, I'm not kidding you. You will love falling sick. You go to some of those hospitals, the ambience alone is enough for you to get healed. You walk into those hospitals, you are already feeling like you are better than the way you were feeling at home. Because they understand the element of culture. One industry in this country that is terrible on culture, like I said, hospitality and specifically medical care hospitals in particular, is terrible. Is that? I've done the research. As a matter of fact, it's something I'm working with my wife on. I'm doing some work with her. Because she's a medical doctor, so I used to tease her, you guys, your people don't know what they are doing. So, how does culture
It's a brand, fitting to visual identity. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, how it fits?
Yes.
The way it fits is that, like the example I used, I saw the website. What happens beyond the website? Every other experience that I have interacting with that brand is culture. From the person who picks my phone call, to the person who takes my order, to the person if I drive into the office, to the person, the security man that parks my car. Do you understand? To the receptionist that I meet at the front desk, to the person that helps to resolve the issue itself, and beyond this culture. And that's why if you look at industries that are very flat, where they offer same service, same product. Let's take banking. Every bank does the same thing. Savings, credit, loan, mortgage. They do the same thing. But the question is, why should I go to bank A and not bank B? When the same service you offer, this person offers it. Through banking, starts where operation stops, and that is where culture comes in. Have you noticed that there are times when you have a marketer or a business outlet that sells or produces what you want very close to your house, but you prefer taking Uber to a different location that is farther from you? And sometimes it's because of the way they attend to you and you don't know it. It's culture. It might just be the way they welcome, it might just be the ambience, it might just be, all of those things are wrapped up into culture. You can have good ambience actually, but have a very bad, terrible culture. And that's why culture, no matter how good looking, how well designed, the principle, the psychology around your visual identity, and even the depthness of your strategy, if culture is not right, you're not going to get the desired results. So it's that misalignment that is going to happen.
Just to say something, I think the culture still points to who you are. Like I said yesterday, no business grows above the identity, the character traits of its owner or group of owners.
Yeah. That's what it's
culture still trickles down to the kind of logo the brand will take, how to build their strategy and the team and every other thing from there.
That's why they say organizations are not limited by the resources that they do not have. They are limited by the quality of leaders that they have, because leadership actually dictates the culture. So the culture is also actually dictated by what the leader accepts and what the leader refuses to accept. That's how you build your culture. And it starts with, it's if you want to experience the culture of an organization, one, it starts with experience. Something happens, it becomes your belief. Unconsciously, it becomes your behavior, and the culture is formed. So, if I employ you to an organization, and on your first day, you saw a manager addressing a subordinate, you're very stupid. You are not emotionally mature for this job. But call HR, how did this guy get in here? I need him out of my team now. And he uses the F word. Get the F out of my office. That is what you've experienced. Unconsciously to you, as a vicarious observer, you would reach a belief that that is how it works here. Without anybody telling you. Especially if it happens once, twice, or thrice. You will just naturally, especially when it happens and there's no public
disclaimer to
rebuttal to that action, you will just assume, oh, okay, that's what they do here. Before you know it, it becomes what? Your behavior. And that's how culture is formed. And that's why I said culture is formed by what the leader accepts or rejects. Once there's an experience that doesn't align with the strategy of the business, the responsibility of the leader is to reject it immediately, irrespective of whose ox is God.
It's actually true, because I worked in a place and I stopped in 2 months because of how the man was addressing people. I said, no,
If you had continued, what would have happened to you is you wouldn't know when you start acting like that. Unconsciously, you wouldn't know when you start acting like that. So that's why culture is pretty much important. But how you design all of these things is that's a doctoral degree work on his own. He knows. I've learned the cultural transformation.
There's a book on it coming out. One on culture.
I've led a cultural transformation of an organization, production organization with over 2,000 staff, right? And these are people who consist of expatriates, people who had worked 30, 40 years in the energy sector and things like that. And we were able to, in 9 months, we were able to change the culture, upskill the culture of an organization on 3 key elements: excellence and accountability. Accountability and ownership. Excellence, and excellence here we mean operational excellence, and lastly, sociability and solidarity. And sociability and solidarity here will mean technical camaraderie, and I will explain what that means. Accountability and ownership were able to achieve 90%. So you can imagine an organization where everybody is accountable and they have a sense of ownership. That's the kind of organization we want.
How do you measure that?
Oh, there are metrics for it. That's why I said it's a symposium for you. There's a way to measure it. Excellence, we had 90. No, we have 90% here, sorry. We had 96 here. Here we had 86% rather. And the reason why we couldn't go up to 90, the target here was 87 actually, it was just 1% below that. The reason was because this was in COVID. So all of the initiatives, intervention were designed because everybody was at home. We couldn't achieve it because a lot of them had to do with physical activity. Now we're talking about sociability and solidarity, and people are in their different homes. So to be able to achieve 86% in the heart of COVID, for me, that's a 100% if there was no COVID.
Sociability, meaning how the staff interact with themselves or with their customers.
Essentially, employee engagement, internal engagement, external engagement. So this alone, if I tell you, is a different. And interestingly, at the time we did it, nobody in Nigeria had done it. Nobody in Nigeria had done it. It's actually one part of my body of work that I've not explored, I've not said anything about. Because, first off, literature shows that for you to be able to transform any culture of any organization, it takes an average of 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years.
Yes, 3 to 5 years. We did this in 9 months. So that's something that I'm extremely proud about. And that's why I said I've not gone into it. That's one. Number two, nobody had done anything. The only person that had done something similar was Ademola Onabanjo. Ademola Onabanjo is the president. He used to be in Oando. But he's still in Oando, but he's the MDC of Oando Clean Energies now. At the time, I had gone as far as talking to Yewande Sadiku. I don't know if you guys know Yewande. Yewande Sadiku is one of the financial advisors to Dangote. Brilliant, excellent woman. But Yewande told me clearly at that time that she doesn't know anyone. She was the one that mentioned Ademola to me. She said nobody has done that. She said she hasn't done anything in that regard. I should go talk to Ademola. I reached out to Ademola. Of course, I didn't have his contact. I sent him an IG. He didn't see the IG until the project was done. The IG message on the project was done. Later on, I ran into him at another event. We became friends, and from there on, we've been able to connect. Also now that is the MDC of Wango Energies, Clean Energies. So it was a lot of work, and what helped me was books, really, because it was a project that was handed over to me, and I was appointed in January. COVID came in February. You know how they give you a task and you will see that it's almost like they set you up for failure. And you will see that this is either you sink or you swim. So if you sink, this is you kissing your career goodbye. That was what was happening. It was at a point, immediately it happened, people who were within the team who were supposed to work with me started sending me private emails to say, oh, they're sorry, you can't work with me. So that kind of thing. I was there in my room in a hotel one cool afternoon like that, and I started thinking, 2 months gone, nothing. I said, is this how my career is going to fizzle before me? The career has not even started. And I work in an industry where nobody forgives you. They don't forgive you. Once it becomes a label, that's your brand. For life. Till the end of your career, and you will use it against you consistently. So you had better not get involved than get involved and not show up good. So I was just there, and I said, well, if I'm looking for answers, then it should be in books. So I walked across. The Lantana bookshop was still opposite the hotel. I walked across and got into Lantana bookshop. And I went through all of their shelves, new arrival, old arrival, every book that has culture on it, that looks like there's culture, picked it up. That's why I had 2 baskets of books. Bought books worth close to $300 at the time. And as I was coming down the staircase, there was a lady who they usually come to buy books. So she walked up and she saw me and said, "You don't strike me like a bookseller." And at the same time, I would struggle to agree that you bought all these books to read it. I said, "Well, if you understand what's chasing you, you know why I had to buy these books." So she gave me a promo code because she sells, so they have a promo code. So I got a discount. And since then, I've been buying books with her. So anytime I'm there, I just call her. Once she sees my call, I just go, "Yeah, I'm this is the new code. Use this code." And by the time I read the very first book I read was Culture Catalyst by Samuel R. Chan. Because I got back to my hotel, I scattered the book on my bed. And the first one that caught my attention was that book, Culture Catalyst. I read the book, and before I was done, I came up with what I call the 10 culture killers. And that's how we started the journey of culture transformation. Turned it into a PowerPoint slide, sent it to my boss in GM at that time. He looked at it. Just sent me a WhatsApp message back, said, "This is exactly."
So how can we get the book?
Oh, it's the book.
So what that is?
Oh, I say wait for when mine come out. when mine is out. Wait for when my own book is out, but you can get it. But basically, remember that even the 10 culture killers that I came up wasn't necessarily read out in the book. It was the book triggering that inspiration to be able to come up with it, given the circumstances that I found myself. So it's not as if you buy that book and you're going to see 10 culture killers. You're not going to find it something. Then thanks goodness to one of my team member, Timothy. I sent it to him and Timothy animated it with Doodly. That animation. Yeah, pen I wipes, and that's how we started the whole journey. So culture really is quite interesting and it's key, and that's how the organization was able to achieve one of the best performance in the year of COVID.
So I have a question, and it's based on my informed knowledge of your work. Everything you mentioned there is nothing that makes it look like it's branding about the key indicators that you guys are able to track the culture.
Yeah.
But is it right to say that it is the success of this cultural transformation that helped to drive the identity change that happened some years ago, some years later?
Absolutely. So what has happened is the moment we were able to do that, the organization was already building a pedigree for excellence, for accountability and ownership, for sociability and solidarity across the business. And that was the performance and impression that we were creating in the heart of our customers. And that's why one of the things that has, beyond the fact that it's a B2B organization and that has an interesting business model anyway, but all of those things have made us top quarter performance, because when we then looked at the performance of the organization in the industry against peers, we were between number 1 and number 5. So it was top quarter. And all of these things were clearly reflected. As a matter of fact, we had a time when one of our customers had issues with their vessel. And it was a purely an IT system, and the vessel was shutting down. And people, starts from our own, it had nothing to do with us. They were somewhere on the Gulf of Guinea. Got into boats, went there, fixed it. That left a very strong imprint in the heart of the customer, where it then becomes, this is not just a value provider, this is also a problem solver.
Yes, sir.
You understand what I'm trying to say? So, those kind of businesses will be more in tune to buy from us, because they know if they run into similar issue, even if they cannot get the right solution from us, they probably will get a support from us.
And so how do you balance both pricing for the value and the problem you're solving, or you tend to solve?
Getting the actual value for it.
Yes, sir.
Alright, so I think in a way you saw what was on my mind. I was going to speak a little bit about that with regards to the question. And that question was very, very key, because it's one of the things, so when you were speaking, I noted it down in my notes. It's one of the things that a lot of businesses are dealing with, right? You know, one of the things I've also realized is the element of timing, right? It's the element of time. I'll give you a story. A friend of mine told me how He's been doing a job for a client for 1 million USD. And this is the list of all the deals, sustainable deals, year in, year out, locked in clientele that he has. But you see, this 1 million over years now became much more important than every other deal that had given him 10 million, 50 million, and the likes.
So I just asking the person B2B or services.
Services. What then happened was, through this deal, he then got a deal that expanded into something like, not exactly, but something like having to manage an oil well. This person is a woman, this person is a man. No, this person is a woman rather, this person is a man. This person now happens to be the wife of this person.
In the process.
They've always been, they never know. They've always been. So imagine, remember, I told you when he was doing this deal, when he was providing these services, this was the least valuable amongst the clientele that they had.
Yeah.
Imagine if he had treated this as the least valuable. So you never can tell where the big breakthrough to come from. Treat every transaction as the most important transaction. So what would happen in that sense is, for the past 3 years, this guy was underpaid. In 1 year, they got more value they could have gotten in 10 years. So sometimes, it's not as if it's a bad thing to be underpaid.
Will I say it's underpaid? Like, we beg to differ.
No, I deliberately use that word underpaid just to give it the, you understand what I'm trying to say, to give it the, so that you can feel the weight of what I'm trying to say. In essence, it wasn't underpaid, he was paying it forward. It was an improvement.
Maybe she should later become his wife because she was his wife.
It has always been his wife, they just didn't know. Then by the time they were to now go for this job, that is when they now realize that, oh, this person is this person's wife. And just tell me, it will be difficult for any other company to beat them to it.
Based on
Because there's been an established relationship of value that these persons understand and appreciate for the past 3 years. And these guys are married. So it's important that, like I said, every transaction you treat it as the most important transaction. What will happen to you is, number one, there are times when you're creating value, but the environment you find yourself an environment, just environment that cannot yield a better result. Given the fact that you're probably connected with people who, that's the worth that the amount they can pay. Not necessarily because they don't understand that it's worth more than that, but that's what they can afford. But if you keep curating that value, yes, you might not get as paid as much as what you're doing, but what you're doing is you're also owning your skills. You're also improving, right? But what you then need to do is a few things that you then need to do. The difference between you and those other guys is the fact that, number one, they are talking to the right circle, and number two, they've been able to establish themselves as an authority. You need to be able to do this too. And how do you talk to the right circle? Every industry has got a time when the egos gather. You have to be there. So you'll be in conferences, even how you even use your personal digital footprint to project your work is also important. So it could be you spending a few times doing some short videos just talking about your work, the value, how to create value. Because what it does is it accrues, it shows up your authority, it shows that you know exactly what you're doing. It could also mean sometimes that it means like you're giving out value for free. But the truth is you should give out value for free because that's how people recognize that you've got value anyway. If you have it and give it to yourself, I probably wouldn't know, but you show it. So you must be in the right circle, be in the right faces of people, and you must show that what you are an authority. And the last bit of it is relationship. I cannot take this off. Relationship is key. One of the things I've seen over the years now is the fact that, dude, every contract that is being signed has an element of relationship underneath it that is not known most times to the party signing it.
Yes.
They have no clue what's happening. There's a relationship. The relationship might be direct relationship. The relationship might be formed as a result of your geographical location or your origin. So I have a friend of mine who is into, he started off as end-mile delivery system. At some point, they went into transportation. Now they are doing electric vehicles, got investors on the flies, private jet now, things like that. One of the greatest deals they've ever gotten, especially in with respect to brand, was a deal they got because he's from Africa. And he had a bit of relationship with somebody who was on the board when they were making a decision on which business to award the grant to. Somebody wanted it somewhere else, and the lady just was smart enough to say, it seems like you don't want these guys because they are obviously qualified because you're a racist. I know the white guys, yes, they don't like that. At the moment, that's how I want it. Now this lady is from South Africa. Relationship. Now, to sustain that relationship, he also needs to acknowledge it. And when I say acknowledge, it's not by saying thank you, by mouth, it's by acknowledging it. And acknowledging it doesn't mean you have to do something. But what he then did was, as part of the delivery of that project, he built in a CSR that meant that they were going to award certain part of that contract to a firm, a South African firm. They are in the office. The guy who is supposed to vet the bid and say the guys from South Africa are not qualified. The boss says, give it to them. Because he doesn't understand the relationship that is driving that. And the guy is still saying, no, you know, he told me, man, in short, the way I spoke to him, the only thing I did say is that, my friend, I'm your boss. I'm trying to give it to them. Then the guy said, but I can see, although you won't blame the guy, he's also doing his own job anyway. Yeah. So, but this guy said, yes, they don't have the capability, we will provide that capability. So you can never take away the element of what? Relation. And that's why it's always important, guys, always important. You're walking into a room, the first thing I ask myself is, who do I need to meet here today? It might not be one person. So when I walk here, I go for network meetings, I walk into, first off, I'm standing in one corner looking at everybody. Sometimes you don't even know who the person is, not by, but you know, maybe it works for me. From engagement, from sometimes I just gravitate towards that person. And by the time I speak with the person, I already know, this is why I'm here. I can do any other thing, but if I leave at that moment, I know I'm fulfilled. I met the guy, I met the reason why I'm here. So relationship is what? Very key. Very, very key. Meet people anywhere, anyhow, wherever you are, whenever. Meet people, connect with people, talk about. One of the greatest deals we've ever had was somebody who I gave a lift to the airport. He knows. I never knew. Just, they told me there's somebody I need to, I'm not available. I said, I can drive the person, so I went there and drove him. We were just talking, he had nothing. Oh, what do you do? I could have told him my professional job. I told him what I was doing on the side. And he said, but I've been looking for that solution. It was on the Saturday. And I said, it's okay, send it to me. Reluctantly, I just sent him. By Monday, 2 days, he had paid for a quarter. Up front. Relationship. You can meet people anywhere, you never can tell the people, like they say, you are one person away from one person who knows the person that can give you the big break that you need. So I'll soon be rounding up now, but any question on this part? Okay. So if the questions comes up, you can ask anytime. But let me leave you.
I have a question though.
Okay.
As regards pricing, was pricing, that's I see pricing as exchange of value. You give me this, I'm giving you something valuable to me. Was pricing always be in the frame of money?
No. As a matter of fact, the smartest way to look at pricing is to look at it from both tangible and intangible assets and not just money. I feel like this the easiest and the pedestrian way to look at value is to look at money. Because money in itself is limited, right? It's limited by the kind, the currency, and the quantity. But relationship has a limitless value. And I'll give you an example. Very pedestrian example. When I was looking for a job after youth service, I was staying. So first off, I went to Lagos. I didn't know anybody. I went with a shirt and 2 shirts and 1 trousers. And I went basically just to write exam with an insurance company. So I needed a place to lay my head. Then I was the sports president, CBS, and state sport director for the state where I served. So during my youth service, because I was the state sport director, I know someone who was my CBS member. I was always traveling, so I was always covering up for him. When I wanted to go right, I knew he was in Lagos because I was always, so I called him. Hey, listen, I know you're in Lagos. I have this exam I want to come right. Can I come spend the night? So he said, oh, that he doesn't stay with his parents. He stays with a friend. He can talk to the friend if he allows him. So I spoke to his friend. The friend said, okay, you're just coming to write the exam, not a problem. Come. So I traveled. I wrote the exam. It was on the Saturday. He said, oh. So I was to go back, but they then said the result will be out on Monday. So I spoke to them. I said, please, can you allow me stay till Monday? It will make sense that I travel out of Lagos only to come back, just in 2 days time. So let me just know my fate. So I waited till Monday, result was out. The moment result was out, I passed. I said, oh, they are going to do 3 weeks training. I went to back there, please, can I stay? That's how I started staying in Lagos. So we all were staying together. Then we did that job, like that. Then I was teaching in a primary school where they were paying me 14,000 naira. Private secondary school actually, 14K. And this is fresh out of youth service. And in church, I was attending Redeem at the time. I met a fan, so I was very active. I was in Sunday school. So I met one of the elderly women, we call her mommy. So she told me, oh, that her son who attends army colleges back home is on holiday. The guy is just that. Can I come take him lesson? Do organize lesson for him? Take him. So I said, why not? So I got there and I started teaching him guys. So they were asking, oh, what's the cost? I mean, I'm spending 14K squatting with somebody in Lagos. If there's anybody who needs money, it's me. With 2 shirts, 1 trousers. Obviously, it's me. But somehow, I didn't feel comfortable asking for money. So I told them, oh, we'll talk about money now. So I continued like that. It was 2 weeks, 3 weeks. One day I got there, they said, no, that today I'm not teaching their son. I must tell them, their mother, they see that I've been stylishly avoiding. Before then, I called my friend Edison and said, listen, this family, this boy, and they will teach. My spirit's no. Thank God for Edison. I said, no. If your spirit is saying you shouldn't call it, thank God for the kind of friends I have. So we had that conversation before that day. So I said, no, but we will talk after. They said, no, that is short, no lesson today. I must tell them what it was. Now, long story short, I told them clearly, I said, Timmy is like my younger brother. The truth is, I don't think I want to do this for money. I just feel like he's my younger brother. And they said, oh, we said it's okay. Yeah, if you were to do it for somebody else, how much? Long story short, I didn't give them an amount. But guess what? They still paid me. But what had happened was, I then realized that I had gained a family for myself in Lagos. Because they now see, they still paid me the money, but they now realized that I didn't put money forward. So what they did was to open their vaults to me. So anything I wanted, I could get beyond the money. But if I was very transactional from the get-go, everything about that relationship would have been transactional. So what I tell people is, it's good to put money forward. Obviously, your business needs money, but sometimes one relationship can be something that will send your business, launch your business in the direction that you never envisaged up the ladder. just because, not necessarily because you didn't ask for money, but the way you asked for the money. So it's about putting the value forward first. Doesn't mean you won't get your finger bumped, you will. There are people who will take you for granted, there are people who will, see, they will just basically do, human will always be human. But should that change you? No. And that's why your culture is very important. You understand what you're about. I'll give you another critical example, a very funny example. There was a time in my life when, that was before I got married, I was traveling one time and I met a lady so I was traveling with the vehicle and I'm a very conversational person, so I like to, it was a long trip, needed to converse with somebody. So I was trying to chat with her. She had an earpiece on. And first attempt, second shot, by the time she moved her earpiece, the look she gave me was, what's the problem? Are you okay? So, I'll be angry. I turned and I did my own thing. So it was a long trip, and it's the kind of trip that the driver will stop at a certain point. You guys will come down, you might even buy food, stretch your leg, ease yourself, get into it. So by the time we got to one of such places, we stopped and we went into the eatery. I noticed she wanted to buy something, she wanted to get some, but the way she was asking the prices, it seemed like her money wasn't enough. So I noticed it, so I just told the guy, don't worry, give it to her, put it on my tab. So I paid, then I went back into the vehicle. She couldn't even come into the vehicle on time. I could feel what was happening. So she finally came in and I did as if I didn't see her. I was sitting there eating my food. Then she wanted to start the conversation. And after I said, are you ready to talk? So I said, oh no, this guy. She was trying to say, whatever excuses you give, the truth of the matter is you knew what you did, so let it go. So we started talking. Long story short, I realized that she had just graduated from my school. The same school she graduated from. I studied science and studied biochemistry, but she studied accounting. Long story short, in that same trip, I realized that she just finished university and had a job. Long story short, I gave her 3 websites. She applied for 3 jobs right there on the spot. And then I asked her, you're looking for a job, but beyond the job, ladies are known to be more entrepreneurial in nature. Is that something you would like to do? You're still looking for a job, but what should you be doing between us? She then said, she's a bit fashion forward, she likes ladies like that. As a matter of fact, she had even spoken to one of her friends who is in Lagos. She just needs money to start. Okay, so how much do you need? Like 100K. Long story short, I wrote a 1-page business plan in the vehicle that journey. Okay, how much do you need? Barely 100K. Okay, 10 people that give you 10K. That's 100K. Put my name, number 1, put my name. Who can give you? Daddy, mommy, uncle. Before you even had like 15 people. Long story short, she started out. Today she's not working for anybody. That's her business. As at that time, I bought 3 bags as gifts from her. Now, I've said these things to let you understand that because I knew what was driving me and my purpose and what I was meant to do, I didn't allow her nuisance value and her stupidity to derail me. So when you're creating value, you always meet people who will take it for granted because they essentially do not put a premium on what you offer. But don't allow that to change you, because if it changes you, unfortunately for you, you would then go to exhibit that refined value of you or the devalued value of yourself to the real guy that is supposed to appreciate your value. So you don't allow what happens on the outside to change your personality. So you must maintain that personality. Now with that, I would like to take you to what I call the 12 non-negotiable elements of a personal brand. Now this also applies to your business as well. 12 non-negotiable. If you cannot remember anything at all discussed today, I think this is one you should leave here with. 12 non-negotiable. I have an acronym for it: CEP, VVP, TRI. Then I added 2 to it yesterday, TRIs. So 1, clarity. For every brand, you must have clarity. Who are you, what you do, why you do it, the purpose. Pretty, very important. Because this is what guides you. It helps you determine your strategy. It helps you determine the market you play in. It helps you determine who is your target audience. Number 2, E, is your ecosystem. Obviously, it cannot be for everybody. Who is your tribe? Who is the target audience? Number 3 is your business persona. More like, what's your business personality? What's the personality of your business? Or what's the personality of your brand? Number 4 is the value or the problem you're solving. This must be clear.
Business persona, do you ship on that?
Oh, the business persona. What example can I use? What example can I use?
And is it now in the context of a personal brand or a corporate brand?
Both. Every business has got a persona. Every business has got a persona. Sometimes the persona is very obvious from the iconography, from the visual identity. That's why you see some brands that are designed, the iconography, it's more like an ego. And when you begin to break down the personality of that brand, you start seeing elements of an ego represented in that brand. Visionary, very resilient.
More like a brand archetype.
Correct. The next one is visibility. Whether it's a personal or a corporate brand, it must be visible. But it's not just enough to be visible, you must have a visibility positioning. So what positioning are you taking in the industry? And how does it differ compared to others? How does it differ compared to others?
These are positioning part of something. I think there are a little bit of confusion around it. I don't know if you're listening to the parts where I was talking about a startup called Close, right? Which is more like Gigi. Okay, so in my mind, it's almost something like Gigi, but it's being positioned as something where people could sell smarter using AI to people closer in their neighborhood. Is that a well-defined positioning, or what exactly is positioning in this context?
Yeah, so it could go from as simple as what you said now to a more distinctive
Future.
delineation. You get what I'm trying to say. But at the end of the day, it's about position. So if you take, for instance, let's use the word of automobile.
Okay.
So before now, what you had was essentially hydrocarbon-driven automobile. Then Tesla came, and is what?
Electric vehicle.
Electric vehicle. So that's positioning. At the end of the day, it's still a vehicle. At best, it's called an EV, but it's still positioned. So this is essentially a product. It could also be in the how you deliver your services. It could be in the look and feel of your business. So that's why I say it could go from as small, tiny, little differentiation factor to as wide as it is. But the most important thing is you want to be clear where you are. I used to use one very good example. If you look at if you are differentiating the iconography or the logo of a lot of real estate companies, if you notice, what kind of logo do they have? So if I segment it, you see all of them will be in one quadrant.
Yeah.
All of them. We probably will have one or two in different quadrants. So that's a good market where you can position yourself differently. All of them, they are all thinking, even in their marketing strategy, the same thing. Have you noticed? Everybody is telling you the same thing. 5 minutes away from the airport, Central. Everybody is saying the same thing.
But then it makes you trying to say something different when you are not really getting customers to actually respond to you. If these are people are talking and they are getting it, you talk and you get it.
So the thing is,
Will people trust the brand when you're saying something different from what?
Yeah, that's another thing.
no, so there's something different you're saying. It's not as if you are communicating value differently. So it's not as if you are saying something that is off the charts. You are saying the same thing, but you're saying it differently. We used an example where we were talking and said, oh, what were you doing? And she initially wanted to say, oh, I sell this. Then I said, no, you are into healthy drinks. You said the same thing, but it's different.
Do you know if she tells me she's into healthy drink, yogurt and butter will never come to my mind?
Exactly.
That's the idea.
And I'm not
To make
patronize
it question
Exactly. So
and
that
that
is,
interest.
What do you mean
No,
by
but I'm not like to patronize her when you should not tell you.
No,
No,
that's
wait.
say what kind of healthy drink?
Exactly.
How the conversation will start.
Yes.
And you're not telling me
So
yogurt.
what will happen to you is she would have triggered your curiosity about why did she say healthy drink? Because indirectly what she's also telling you is that there are a lot of drinks that are unhealthy. So your interest should not be, okay, so why did you say yours is a healthy drink?
What makes it healthy?
What basis healthy drink? And that's a conversation starter.
Can I give an example now?
Okay.
There are different restaurants, and you go there, and let's say there's always heavy delivery of food. You just order and you get your food. Now you go to another restaurant, for example, and they tell you that in the next 30 minutes. you get food. So let's say that their own communication is you get hot and fresh food from like the other ones which might have been stale or are stale.
Correct.
So you
Correct.
that's it.
Correct. So it's in, so you might not necessarily be saying something different. It's sometimes in how it's being said. And that's where branding comes in, because branding helps you to structure from the name to how it's being communicated. There's a church in the UK, I've forgotten the church now. That's one church, I'm using that church as a study now. Where that's one church that has implemented branding. They branded so much that their windows have a specific shape and it looks like their logo. The pulpit is like their logo. Everything is, you could see the consistency across board, from color to communicate, even the way the ministers speak. There are technologies they cannot use.
That's a distinct brand voice.
There are technologies they can't use. And you walk into that place, you almost feel like you're an alien. You are sold out because you just feel like, I've never seen an environment disorganized. So, positioning. The other one is time guard. Time guard. Every brand must have a time guard. Time guard in the sense that you need to be conscious of the time you play in, the peculiarity of the time, what is informing the consumption appetite of the people that grows your industry, and to understand the evolution of your brand, because every brand must evolve. You also must understand the evolution that is happening within your industry as well. You must understand that.
Because in that context, that first we're designing the Pepsi logo, we're now putting the valuation based on.
And that's why you start seeing a lot of people refreshing their brands. You must understand that what is happening. The other one is humanity. Now, one of the things I've discovered over time is people buy more when your brand is highly humanized compared to, especially if you play an industry where it's very technical. So let's say, for instance, you're in construction CPI or CPIM, construction, procurement and installation. A lot of them, if you go check, if you do a branding research, if you go to their website, what you see is machines. So if I'm not a technical person, that website will put me off because I don't understand. Everywhere is machine. And you see some long names of those machines, and you're wondering what is this. But if you go in and what you see is the beautiful faces behind the products and services that and saying things that are relatable, highly humanized, you want to connect. Humanized brands always sell above highly product-driven or technical-driven brands. Relationships. This is strange again. Especially in the business ecosystem of Africa and Nigeria, to be specific. relationship is key. That's why you see people who don't have the technical competence will get a contract and go and look for people who to execute it. Meanwhile, the guy who has the technical competence is nowhere close to submitting a bid, let alone getting the contract. So relationship is key. In short, what happens these days, a lot of organizations play on the relationship card. They employ people based on who you know. Because they know if you know so many people, the tendency that we're able to get good jobs is very high. So relationship is very key. Integrity. So whether as a personal or a corporate brand, integrity is key. Integrity, this is, it's not just the new capital, but it's the only capital now. Nobody wants to deal with anybody that they can't trust. So trust is key. Integrity. And of course, at every point in time, it must be clear whether you are offering a service or a product. And what are those? That's your 12. What are you offering? Is it a service? Or you're offering both in some cases. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've said all of this to convince you.
I think it's 11.
Is it?
No,
So it's 12.
Wow,
Yes, and do the
It's 12.
Service and product.
Oh,
You
that's
just put it together.
The service and the product.
I've said all of this to let you, to convince you and not to confuse you that branding is very important. So, I think we've come to the end and we probably want to take 1 or 2 questions. If there are any, maybe it's time for me to learn from you. Let me borrow this.
Let me see.
Okay.
I think I've been exposed to branding at a level I've not seen before. All my branding definition have been reconstructed and things like that. So I understand that there are so many questions in my head. So I don't know how to put the current one now, but it occurs to me that a lot goes into play before even the visual part of branding as a community. For most of the clients I work with, they own businesses, and from a marketing point of view, I looked at those their branding, and I feel that okay, this thing is actually not complicating what you're trying to sell, and we need to rebrand it. And basically, what I do for the rebranding is to take the brand directly guideline and change the logo and make it flash something. And most of the decisions on the logo are more informed by my graphic designers. But I looked at it to feel okay, as this could communicate or with a little bit of color psychology to try to understand okay, this brand is in this particular industry and it's good that I have no knowledge of all of this that we have to take the culture into play. Although personally based on the marketing strategy I try as much as I can to add that into the brand guideline and see how it works. So I was just going to have you walk through in your mind how you go through a complete brand. I know it is symposium discussion, it's like the class, but just a little bit of the basics that perhaps after now I could do research and build on it. Some people perhaps you have that person to say, oh, sell that or that thing that really, really be open and want to see how export it.
So basically, it's like you said, there's a science to it, and that's what you're discovering. So that's why I say a lot of times when people who talk about it, they have no clue what they're talking about. If you're doing a brand design, whether it's a refresh or a new brand, what you want to begin with is a brand research. For the brand refresh that we did, we started with the research. Now, because it's a brand that has been in existence for a while, it was clear to know who are the stakeholders that interact with this brand. Internal, external, government, GSCs, regulators, what have you, customers, even their competitors. You need to find out what they think about our brand. So you have a holistic research across all the stakeholders. And the goal of that research is to determine what they think of that brand, their perception of that brand. The moment you have that, you now realize, oh, this is what, let's say for instance, a brand wants to be known customer-focused brand. And by the time you did the whole research, what you realize is that they are actually known as a cost-focused brand. You already have a disparity. So your job now as a professional is to help navigate, because what you want to do is two things. It's either the brand then moves to the position they are known for, if it's not a detrimental position, or you look at what it's going to take to change the mindset and the perception of those stakeholders to the new position that the brand wants to be. You get what I'm coming from that? So for us, I'll use the one we did. At the time, the vision and the mandate was done together. This is an energy corporation that is helping to build a better Nigeria. That's what we were known for. A lot of stakeholders saw it that way. But typically, we started realizing that a lot of customers are also beginning to realize that you are able to build a better Nigeria. You've actually achieved that mandate. Your product goes globally. So, if you're global in that sense, your entire essence cannot be to help to build a better Nigeria. So you see the mismatch now. Yeah. You understand? The product is enjoyed across the driving global economy, powering global energy, and yet, how can your essence? And so funny enough, the Nigeria itself is just a unit within the global economy anyway. So we have to then, and that's how today we say inspiring a sustainable future. Compared to, how does it sound compared to something to build a better Nigeria? You see how elevated the thought process is. So the basic work that will form the framework going forward is your background research, and that's the brand research.
So that also influences how you visual
everything that you're doing. Everything.
I had a situation with a client where he's a senior manager and he owns hospitality and a hotel. And the logo and coloration of what he's coming up with is triggered by his background. Right? So he called it a diplomatic entry. So he was using some stuff around diplomacy, and quite he's well traveled for courses and stuff around that. So as I saw this stuff, I know we can't sell this stuff this way, but we're not selling it to people like
Exactly.
trying to speak to him. He said he agreed with what I'm saying. I said, go and do all what I want to do. When you see those icons on this logo, I lost it. So it became, so after everything, if you produce, he said, you see this thing, you must put ECOWAS, if those if they are chanting ECOWAS, and people shaking their hands, and that it must be in
Like this.
So I just have to find a look at it in the graphic designer. We have to just do something and make it look a bit, and we have to. So in that situation, what would you have done with such a client?
Yeah, so I found myself in even more critical situations like that where stakeholder management is key. And understanding how to, I call it the engineering of human mind. Understanding how to, I've been in a situation where we're making presentations like that, and so this brand wanted to look a certain way. As a matter of fact, by virtue of limited colors we work with, by virtue of the new direction that we're headed. And we're in a meeting with the executive leaders, and right there, this one was saying, I like to see this color, I like to. When your guy is already telling you,
He likes to see.
we were not done with research, color was already chosen. You know? And these are the people to sign the check. So they are not just small fries. You understand what I'm trying to say? And it's telling you, I like, as one was saying, I like the second in command was saying, hey, as you just said that, me too. I like this. So, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of things we use. One, the power of influence. Two, relational power. Three, the power of expertise. There are people who are that level, expertise cannot work because there's nothing you want to tell them. They feel they know much more better than you do. And you know, branding is so interesting that everybody thinks they do it. That's the funny thing with branding. Everybody has an idea. Even those that know what they are doing and those that don't know what they're doing have an idea. So there was a time I was working on one and somebody went as far as criticizing what I was doing and you know, sometimes you give people opportunity to fool themselves. So I then said, okay, from the way you sound very technical and you have some stuff. Would you mind designing something for us? The guy came up with something.
Oh, you really did this came up with something.
I sent it to him. By the time I opened it, there was somebody in my hotel room. The guy said, "Is this a kindergarten that drew this down? What is this?" I said, "No, it's this." But that's the last time he ever challenged my idea. And that's the thing. Sometimes just when people think they know, just okay. Let's see what you got. You know what I mean? Especially when you know you've done your due diligence. So it's a very difficult line to walk. Now there are about 8 critical elements which I won't be able to go into now when it comes to brand refresh that you must look at. What I say is 99.9% of the time you can't get away with the 8 of them for a brand that you're refreshing, you're designing, because you're dealing with external people, their influences and the rest. But if out of 8 you can get 6, that's a pass mark. I've done, I've always gotten 7 out of 8. So 7 over 8 for me. Yeah, so, and it takes people who are highly professional to realize that there's one that is missing. Do you get? People see it for outside and think perfect, but it takes somebody like me to realize that something is missing. So but if you're a professional and see I'm able to get 7 over 8, especially a professional in practice who understands what we go through. The guy will say, okay, you overtried. For you to get 7 out of 8, dealing with this kind of people, you overtried. So for sometimes, for people like that too, once you try to convince them, you might also need to be able to concede. But the question is, what will you concede on? Out of these 8, there are about 3 that are very core. So if you're able to win on those core, out of the other 5, you can concede any. You get what I'm trying to say? But try to limit it such that you don't want to find yourself in a place where you can't beat your hand to your chest that you did that job. And that's the most important thing. And you understand what I'm trying to say? When you do something, you almost be hiding, you don't want to put a stamp on it that you did it, because you know professionals will question, why would you approve something like this? So it's a difficult one to do. It's difficult. Those 8, that's a master class on it, so don't worry. we'll come to that maybe some other time.
What about the 3 calls?
The 3 course, they're part of the 8 now. I'm part of the 8. We'll come to it in a more detailed session. Don't worry. I know it's a long ride. We can't deal with everything at once.
Yeah, no, that's the last before I ask my final.
Okay. So let's talk. Okay.
Oh, so sir, regarding personal branding, right? As someone who professionally work in the space as a brand consultant, what if you have other areas of your life that are also very important to you? How do you manage to put a balance to them?
Yeah, so it can be very challenging. Sometimes that's what they call brand architecture at the end of the day, because it's not just even in personal, even in corporate brands, right? You have situation where the brand is into several things. So what we call the house of brands, and what we call branded houses. Now they all have they both have the advantages and disadvantages. But the question is, what you are trying to achieve is what determines what you are going to go with, or which structure you're going to adopt at the end of the day, right? So, house of brands basically is you have a big brand and other smaller brands that probably take similar identity, right? While you have branded houses where you have a big brand, but then the big brand then have other brands that are more or less standalone, different identity. You understand what I'm trying to say? They have different identity, but they basically like a standalone on their own. I'll give an example. The Dangote Group is one. So you have the sugar, you have the refinery. They're all independent brands. You get what I'm trying to say? But the question is, what do you do? Now, this is where the pros and cons come in. If you are doing branded houses, for instance, right? A lot of time when you're doing branded houses, what you have is there is a mother brand that has a character that is reflected across the other brands. could be in visual identity, it could be in color, it could be in how the logo is designed, you know. There's just this, once you see it, you see that, oh, this is part of this group, this is part of this group. You understand what I'm trying to say? The danger, the only challenge in some of those kind of brands is from a reputational brand management. If anything negative happens to one of the brands, it can kill the other brands. Because in the eyes of people, it is one. You understand? It is you that knows that, oh, these are individual, but in the eyes of external people, it is one. So that can be a danger, right? But at the same time, if your intent at this level is that you have a brand that is very strong, but you are trying to leverage the credibility of this brand to bring up this other brand, you could also do this. So that's why I said it depends on what you are trying to achieve per time that will determine what strategy you should use. But in choosing the strategy, you should also pay attention to the pros and cons of it as well. Because what usually happens as an individual is, let's say for instance you are an expert in writing and you want to go into public speaking. You probably don't want to do branded houses because what it means is you are going to be so differentiated. So you are trying to be too personal at the same time. So you want to do house of brand. So it's you, the writer, but this time around you are leveraging your knowledge from writing and using that to drive your public speaking engagement. You get what I'm trying to say? So when people are looking at you, they are judging you not just on your public speaking competency that you just started, but on your competency that they've known you for writing. And there's that transferable competence that people just have at the back of their mind that if he's good in this, he probably will be good in this. You get what I'm trying to say? But if you then decide to go and do house of brands and you want to differentiate totally, so maybe you are known as Mr. A, the author, and now you want to be known as Mr. B, the speaker, you won't be able to leverage the brand equity on this other side. It means that you have to start afresh. People are just knowing you and things like that. So that's essentially what it is. But what I tell people at the end of the day is don't take too many things at the same time. So if you have different capabilities, ensure that you have one that is branded, solid, that people know you for. Then leverage that one to build the next one. But
what people know